going, or if they gonna pay the closing costs for the sender as well, or just their closing costs on their side?
Are you saying, is the buyer gonna pay the
Right.
closing costs? Yeah, there are some closing costs for the buyer to pay.
I mean, I'm
Now,
saying,
sometimes
but are
it's-
they the closing costs for the seller?
Right. So so most closing costs are for the buyer.
Okay.
Right. There's some costs that the seller pays as well.
Right.
All right. And it all depends on the deal that you
Okay.
make. That's right. So sometimes you'll get an offer that sort of say, hey, you know what, we'll offer you a full price, but we are requiring the seller to pay some of my closing costs.
Okay.
All right. So the seller, because the seller has the equity, can say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna think about what do I want to net on this deal?
Mhm.
What do I want to walk away with on this deal? And then they'll say, yeah, I'll pay the buyer's cost because it's really greasing the wheels to get the right transaction.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
so there is some of that if you're on the buyer side, you're going to try to get the seller to pay, but you still have cash to close.
Right.
All right. And the same thing on the seller side. There is some there's some things associated with that purchase in terms of getting a clear title and all that you're going to have to pay.
Right. I
So
understand that.
are you selling or buying?
I'm buying.
Buying. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, and really, when we're talking about that giving you a strategic offer, it's talking to your lender
Mhm.
and then understanding, hey, you know what? This is how much cash to close is going to be needed.
Okay.
Right. This is how much cash to close he has. All right. So he's going to require the seller to pay, some additional funds, and then asking the seller for that amount when we write the offer.
Okay.
Right. So that's the reason why we need to know all that information up front, so we can position that offer correctly to find that right seller for you. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So it actually jumps into kind of what your question was, right? What are the financial considerations? You're right on time. Did we pay you for that? All right. So, and Simone could talk a little bit about this. She'll talk in depth a little bit more. It's that from a lender, from a buyer perspective, what the lenders are looking for is financial stability. All right. Couple years in a home, 2 years in a home. I don't want to glance over there. They're looking at your debt to income ratio. All right. And how much money you have for your down payment and your credit score. All right. So I mean, and again, we have a lender in the back that's gonna talk a little bit more in depth about what's required in there, so you can ask your questions there. All right, let's talk about the home search.
So if you can buy a home today, can you picture what it might look like? What would it look like?
Town,
Oh,
3 bed. I already know it.
You already know it.
But I'm just not there at that moment.
okay, that's good to know. That's a good start.
Yeah.
You?
It would be a ranch style,
Okay.
single level ranch style.
All right.
Tiny cottage style.
Okay. And two-story. All right. Great. So when looking for a new home, there are several factors that you should consider to ensure that you find a place that meets your needs and suits your lifestyle. So some of the key factors to consider include location. So what type of neighborhood would you want to live in? Consider work, how far you have to travel to commute back and forth. If you have kids or plan on having kids, what school system would you want them to attend? So these are just some of the basic criteria that's needed for us real estates to kind of narrow down the search. Next is size and layout. How do you want your floor plan? Do you want a single family, ranch, townhome? There's so many options. There's so many answers. So as your agent, I would suggest that you think about the space that best matches you and your family's lifestyle. So everyone has a unique need and influence to their everyday living. Next is the condition of the home. Are you looking to move in a already move-in ready type of home, or are you willing to put some effort into improvements to make the home your own? So that's also something to consider.
And you think about that in terms of how much funds you have available, right, for your pre-approval. But sometimes, hey, you want a bigger spread, but right now you may, based off of how much funds you want to spend, it may require you getting something that requires some work. All right. We're going to talk about those type of loans that you can get to help you fix it up during the process, or maybe using some alternative sources if you're selling a home and need some work to get max value. So we have a few folks here that are going to chat about that process as well.
Okay. And then we have the price. So this is the time to think about what you are comfortably with paying. So it's very important in getting pre-approved for a loan. So that's a great way to keep you within budget, so you don't go over that, you know exactly what you're looking for. So just remember that, a home should be a source of joy and excitement, not stress. You don't want to get in a home and get overwhelmed with the monthly payments. So that's
Right.
always something to really think about.
Yeah. It's the people in the home's going to stress you.
Yeah.
Always.
And then we have the resale value. Even if you discover a home that you love, you also want to consider the potential value of the home in the future. So a home is not just a place to live, it's also an investment, So think about how much the property could be worth in the years to come. And then your future plans. How long do you plan on living in a home? Are you looking to retire in a home? Are you waiting for the kids to graduate high school or college? Another thing to kind of consider with that. Next slide. Falling in love with your future home. There we go. Falling in love with your future home makes the entire process sweet. It's a great experience and a sense of accomplishment. Sellers want what will win the deal. So understanding what the seller desires can give you a huge advantage in making an offer when that time comes. And then we have the earnest money. So the earnest deposit is generally 1% or more of the purchase price. This lets the seller know that you are serious about making this purchase. And then the down payment and finance amount. The down payment, you want to figure out how much you want to put down and how much you want to finance. So it's always important to kind of start saving ASAP, just to kind of build up the down payment. And then the contingency dates. So as your agent, I will make sure that you monitor the essential dates to ensure everything remains on schedule. So that is key when it comes down to purchasing a home. Inclusive in the home.
Oops, sorry.
It's all right, JP.
Right. User error. User error. We're going forward. I'm trying to go back. Hold on. What were we on? Slide 10. All right.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Inclusions in the home. So you want to know what's included in the home, what appliances, what fixtures. So it's important to know exactly what you're buying when it comes down to a home. And then we have the offer. So this is where you should be getting excited because you're getting close now. So there's 3 ways that this can go. It can either be accepted, countered offer, or declined. Either way, the key is to stay positive. As your agent, I will assist not only writing the offer, but writing it in a way that will give you the best chance to obtain the home at a great value. And then once the offer
So
is
just to touch back on that and that offer, especially when you're going through the process of writing offers and depending on what the market is doing at a time. All right. There was a period of time a couple of years ago where the market was a super seller's market. All right. Houses were sitting on the market long. All right. And you really had to be very strategic in terms of how you wrote your offer. Right. They weren't, getting closing costs was probably not possible during that environment. All right, because the next one behind you is offering basically a better deal for the seller. All right, so you got to think in terms of kind of what's going on in the market. Will dictate kind of how much you have to give. Like right now, the market is a little bit slower. Right, it's more of a balanced market. Still a seller's market because the inventory is low, but it's still a little balanced in the sense that homes are sitting on there now. Where before I used to list a house on Thursday, we'll be under contract by Monday. All right. Now, if I list it on the beginning of a month, it's going to be probably, on average, it's about 60 days that it's staying on there. All right. So, but don't get discouraged during the process on whatever side you're on. But when you're buying, you look at how long the house has been on the market. All right, because and then we will tweak your offer to reflect, hey, how much closing costs will you need, right? To share the cost. Right? We at Keller Williams, we believe in win-win. All right, so it's not like, hey, we're going to stick it to the seller, right? Or on the buyer side, we're going to take advantage of anybody. The reality is to get a deal that's balanced and fair, all right, that puts you in a position to win down the road, right? That helps that seller, desirable to pick your offer, all right? And same thing on the seller side. We want to make sure that we help the buyers out, but at the same time put us in the position of where we want to go, because we're going to be buyers on the other side. You know what I mean? So the circle doesn't change, right? And what I find is, sometimes people get caught up in the emotion of, let's make a deal, because we all watch TV. We all see the deals, and we all see the ice maker with his wife that knits yarn be able to buy $1 million house. The reality right? The reality that's not true, right? They both need to be, or one needs to be, employed for at least 24 months or 2 years, all right, and they need to have a stable income, all right, and a lender needs to be able to get them pre-approved. They don't show you going through those hurdles. They don't show you, hey, I got to get my credit right, but that's the stuff they don't show you on the show, right? They don't show you when you got to go out and see these houses, and you got to say, hey, you know what? This one is not in great condition, but it's in the neighborhood that I want to be in. I want my kids to go to this school. So you're making that emotional struggle between, hey, this one's pristine, but now it's an hour and a half commute for me, right? So you're figuring out kind of how to make that balance when you're going through this process, and then how do you craft that offer, right? That's where you rely on your agent saying, hey, you guys have seen this before. I want this house. I'm gonna ask you, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Right? Are you willing to forego some closing costs to get it? Right? Or if you can't, then it is what it is. We got to ask for what we got to ask for. All right. But the whole idea is to get you there. All right. And that's where the value of your agent comes into play. I run the mouth, so sometimes
It's okay.
they gotta look at me like, are you done, James? Yeah.
Keeps the gym.
The next step would be giving the earnest money to the title company. As stated earlier, it's usually 1% or more of the purchase price. Next is the inspections and repairs. So you'll schedule a home inspection and discuss or negotiate any necessary repairs. In most cases, you will have 7 days to complete it, and do any other due diligence that would like to complete before moving the home inspection contingency. So plan on inspection being about 2 to 4 hours, depending on the square footage. And if after having an inspection and you find a significant defect, or safety concern with the home, you can request the seller to repair or replace, or if you're willing to take on that issue and ask for a credit to the seller. So you do have options depending on how much you really want this home. The next step is completing the appraisal. So the appraisal provides the estimated fair market value of the home, which is crucial for lenders to determine the loan amount, and for the buyers and sellers to ensure a fair price. So during this time, you'll be working with our lender or a lender of your choice to apply for loan in order and pay for your appraisal. Next is the home insurance. This is where you shop around for home insurance options. And then we have the finalized mortgage details. The closing disclosure document is your go-to for your final cost for mortgage details and any fees that's outlined in the contract. The purchase of the home. It outlines the terms, the estimated monthly payments, and the total closing costs you can expect. So also keep in mind that the lender is required to provide this documentation at least 3 days before closing. And then we have the final walkthrough. You will have 24 to 48 hours before closing to take that last walkthrough of the home before you can call it your own. So complete the walkthrough to ensure everything is in order before closing.
Yeah, and that walkthrough is just to make sure that, again, the house is in the order that, you know, we expect it to be, right? You know, but we saw it almost 30 days before, and we loved it. You know, there's somebody may be living in it still. So, you know, where are they in terms of the moving out process? Have they made all the repairs that we requested? You know, time for you guys to, you know, okay, hey, make sure that, you know, the refrigerator is what I want, or what are we gonna do? You know, what are we gonna do in the backyard, honey? You know, all that stuff. You know, I mean, it's just kind of getting it right. So, but it gives you that opportunity to see it before closing. All right.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys have any questions on the buying process, or thoughts or comments?
Do you talk about PMI at all?
The PMI? Yeah, we could talk about PMI. You wanna?
So after they're done with their slides, I'm Simone, everyone. I'm a loan officer, the lender that can help you with the financing.
Lender extraordinaire, by the way.
Thank you. I'll tie it all together for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is anybody in here going to be selling a home?
Not no time soon.
No time soon. Okay.
I got somebody in my house right now.
Gotcha. Well, we'll still review the process of selling, because we wanted to cover both aspects on it. Because, you know, once we get you into a great home or into another great home, you know what, we're gonna, you know, it might be a point where you're ready to move that home. All right. And let's jump into that right now. Just kind of giving you an idea of what that looks like. All right. I may be a slide or two behind. Okay. What the expected closing? We did that. All right. Are you ready to sell your home? But no time soon. All right. But, you know, I mean, it's you know, I like to make sure I give everybody an overview, and then we'll have the lender kind of talking about the financing piece. All right. Okay. I'll talk about this portion. Are you ready, or?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Come on up.
Yeah, of course. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good
My
morning.
name is Elijah Cantrell. Again, I'm one of the local realtors here at KW, West Atlanta. So after you buy your first home, you know, maybe you've been there a couple years, and you start thinking about, you know, maybe I'm growing my family, or maybe, you know, I need to take care of my parents. And so there may be a reason why you need to sell that home that you purchased, right? And so there are some personal considerations that you take, and those are probably it. Do any of you have kids, or still have your parents around, or anything like that? No? No kids? No?
Everybody got grown kids. they adults now.
Right? Anybody?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe they want to come back and live with you. You say, oh, I just need a bigger space. Oh, no, that's it. Well, they're gone. So I get it, yeah. So that may be, for some people, a reason why they want to sell and get something a little bit more comfortable for everybody that's going to be in the home. Your local housing market could be another reason. Back, like somebody mentioned in 2020, that was the perfect time to probably sell a home, you know? And why is that? Because the market was booming. There was nobody out there to buy any homes, because there weren't any homes out there. So he was able to get $170,000 in equity, and that's because of just how many houses were selling and how much of an increase the market was giving people to take advantage of it. So that was really amazing. You know, the economy could be another factor, like I mentioned, and some seasonal factors may be a reason why you want to do it. Maybe you're getting a new job and they're moving you, right? Or maybe they're even, you know, saying that this is the perfect time of year. Spring is the perfect time of year to actually, you know, put your house on the market. Why? Because buyers are out there, you know, they got some money in their pockets, they've been saving for a couple years, you know, and so now they're ready to do it, and they do it in spring. So that way we can close by the end of time that school gets out, and we can move over the summer and be ready for the next school year. In some consideration, you know. Right. So when you're thinking about examining your why, I think we touched on a couple of these, right? You might be upsizing or downsizing, you know. You've been in your home, you know, it's just you now, and you don't need this 5-bedroom home with a full basement, right? You know,
You
somebody
may
else.
take your townhome that you own. You may want to buy a ranch.
Right.
You know,
serious
for,
issue.
you know, Yeah, look, stairs are real.
They start wearing out, don't they? Some people move because, you know, their job may relocate them, you know, or maybe I want to just be closer to my family as well. So there's are different whys behind why you want to move out there. Does anybody have a, you know, maybe someone that moved closer to them, their family, or, you know, maybe you relocated to Atlanta? Are you all from Atlanta?
No,
No? Where'd you move from?
here, and here.
Oh, okay.
Last place was, actually, last place was Denmark.
Denmark. Wow.
Denmark.
That's awesome.
I thought you were gonna say like, you know, New York or something.
Before that, it was North Carolina.
Okay.
Nice. My aunt stayed in North Carolina in Sneeze Ferry for a while. Her husband's in the military, so they moved around a lot, you know, and so that really what got me interested. I'm like, how are you able to move so quickly and so frequently, you know? So that was a consideration for them, you know. Your lifestyle changes, you know, like I said, maybe family, you know, it's adding to the family, or maybe an investment purpose. Maybe you wanted to buy a second home, you know, or maybe you want to sell this home because it's, you know, at the perfect time to sell, you know. So everybody has their why, and so when you're ready to sell, that's really what you're honing in on. Why am I looking to sell, you know? Because it really helps in when you're looking to sell, it helps in how you're negotiating, how you're pricing, you know, how you're setting yourself up to be successful. Because like my peers mentioned, your home is an investment, and so obviously you want to make some return on it, right? Everybody wants some good money in their pocket. Good.
Just
So we
to touch on
identify
what he
that
just said, right? I mean, so your home becomes different things to you at different times, right? It's shelter in the beginning, you know, hey, you know, you get that sense of joy, but it at the end of the day, it's an investment, it's a tool, right? You know, it's something for you guys to use to position for your next step. All right. So sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? I want to sell that home because hey, I got some personal debt I need to take care of, and I want to get a clean slate. It may be because hey, you know what? I'm buying these homes because at some point I'm going to sell them because they're going to be my retirement strategy. All right. So it becomes. I mean, there are times when we think about it, we're just linear focused on okay, I just want a home, I just want shelter. Right, but it becomes more than that, depending on how you use it. It could be your retirement part of your retirement plan, but it also could be for your grandkids. All right, you may want to put them in a better position than when you were, right, financially.
Yeah.
You might be like, hey, you know what? Forget the kids. Let me just make sure my grandkids are all right. You know, so it becomes some way you can help pass wealth around through your generation.
Absolutely. We call it that secret bank account, you know?
Right.
So you always got to be depositing into your secret bank account. Okay? So when you're ready to sell, we got 6 quick tips that we want to share with you to help prepare for that, you know? So you've done number 1 right here. So maybe you know somebody that's looking to sell because I know you're already excited to buy. But just like in the buying cycle, you want to meet that agent. You know, your agent is your local expert. You know, they're going to help guide you, try to demystify what selling is and make you feel comfortable and, you know, stress-free while going through that process, right? In order to do that, you do want to pre-qualify your home, you know. Try to get with your lender again and say, you know, what do I need to do to make this an investment very profitable, my investment very profitable for me? So they'll go through that and, you know, get you what that final number would look like after all those maybe, you know, negotiations take place too, and where's a good settling area for you. And then you'll get back with your agent, because when you know what number you need to hit, your agent has a good sense of the market. They've been doing their comparative marketing analysis. They've been looking at, you know, homes that have been selling right. So they're going to price it at the perfect point. So that way it's not just sitting on the market for forever. You're wondering whenever you're going to sell this home, right? Your agent's that expert that was going to help you really price it correctly, so that way you can get the most buyers to come see your home to make it the most competitive out there, maybe in the neighborhood or maybe even the town, depending on how big it is, right? So we're going to do a pre-inspection before we hit the market though. Your agent's going to walk around your house and, you know, give you some ideas on how to make your home sell for the most amount of money, right? They're going to take care of some of those, you know, defects that are, you know, that buyers don't like. You know, maybe you made your house a home and you love bold colors, or maybe the carpet isn't as fresh, or maybe the fence needs a little love. You know, they're gonna help identify those things, because you get those blinders on the longer you be in your home, right? And so you start hearing maybe that alarm that's going off, and I need to change my fire detectors, or maybe, you know, there's been some stains going on this wall, right? So they will help take those blinders off so that you can make your home, you know, hit the market at the best value, right?
Just on that pre-inspection, your agent's going to go through that, but you also can, they may suggest you have an inspector go through as well. All right, so that way you already know, and you're giving that buyer, hey, these are already known. We already know these known defects, or that hey, there may be a couple things that down the road that like so now before a buyer gets that may scare a buyer off that now that you can fix before you list your home, right? And that gives we have another one of the vendors we use, RentalMax, in the back, and they're going to talk about how you can do that when you want to sell. But also, I mean, think about it also, if you're buying as an investment, there may be some way we can leverage their services in that perspective, right? But we'll talk about that down the road, all right?
Absolutely, so it makes it a more competitive offer when you know what's going on in the home. So that's why you can see some things, and then your inspector can identify more things. So making that buying process very easy and selling process very easy. Decluttering is a no-brainer. We get things, we buy things over time. The garage is probably packed full of stuff that we ain't opened in years, right? Attic the same way. So we want to start decluttering. Taking off some of those family portraits or maybe the large furniture that's in the home, because you're selling your home, so a buyer has to see themselves in that home. And so if you've made it too much of a home, they're like, oh, well, this home looks lived in, and I don't like that, right? Buyers like fresh homes, clean homes, so that way they can picture them and their families there, right? So we'll walk through and kind of identify all of that. And then finally, before we hit the market, everybody loves some good photography. Everybody shops online. Who shops online? I know I do. Right, I shopped online just back there. But when you're shopping, just buyers, they shop online. They look at your home first. They say, oh, this home looks good. Let's check it out. Agents say this home looks good. Let's go check it out. If they put a home online that isn't looking the best with your photos, nobody's gonna buy it. They're not gonna be coming to look at it, because that's the first time they're gonna see your home. And if it's not looking the best, then oh well, you missed out on that sale, right? So those are 6 quick tips that will definitely help you as you're preparing. Does anybody have any questions about maybe they know somebody who's looking to sell, or maybe when I'm ready to sell years on, I can take advantage of these steps or these tips? No? Okay, well, I'll be in the back of the room after the meeting if you want to chat some more about home buying or the selling process, and I will kick it over back to James.
All right. The last step on selling, just like buying has a roadmap. Okay, I got some of these trackers on there. Let me get rid of those. Selling has a roadmap. All right. So there's a path. It feels almost like an inverse of the buying path. So we're gonna touch on that selling roadmap now.
So the seller's roadmap is pretty similar to some of the information that Elijah just provided. It's kind of rolling in the same process, right? So we have a buyer's roadmap and we have a seller's roadmap. At the end of the day, the same goal for the seller is to get that home sold, closed at the best price possible, so that they can go on and transition to what their big why was, which is either transitioning to downsizing with family, relocation. So the first thing that you want to do when you're selling is definitely interview some great agents to figure out who you want as your licensed professional agent to be able to help navigate that process for you, to be able to provide you with great vendors, to be able to maybe to help declutter, maybe to help with some projects for renovation if needed, maybe get associated with some great lenders to figure out what that buying process looks like for you to transition into your next home. So you do want to always get with a great agent first. The next thing that you and your agent want to do is create a strategy, pricing strategy, right? We want to be able to understand what can we possibly get net as the best price for our home to sell, okay? And you always want to be able to compare that with comps and things that are happening in that area. Everybody wants to sell their home at the highest price, right? We got it for $100,000. I want to sell it for $500. I know I can get it. I know I can get it, right? That may be what you want. That may not necessarily be what the market is going to give you, right? So we want to be very in tune with what's happening in the market to also make sure that we are aggressive with getting your home sold at the best price that fits your style, your situation at that time, okay? Everybody want to get rich, but we want to win-win, right? So the win in the win is for you to move on out of that house and to move on to where you want at a great price point, okay? So establishing that price for your house. Then we want to prepare your home. As we mentioned, we want to make sure that we have decluttered. We have done an inspection to see what needed to be done with that home to get it prepared for the market. We want to make sure that if there's any renovations or anything that needs to be done, we can have that type of conversation. See what that looks like. How does that, how does the renovation part maybe help you have an increase on value that you get at the closing table, right? That all matters. Who do you have in your pocket that can help you execute this? Maybe you don't have the money up front to pay for that renovation, right? But there are always, your realtors and your agents that you're working with always have connections with people to make sure that it is in the best idea, the best word.
To put your house in the best light.
Yes, for you. So that's typically the idea. So once we've gotten your home prepared, we have renovated it, maybe, the toilet was hanging on the side, had a little lane on it or whatever, we got it prepared, we decluttered, now we wanna get it on the market, okay? We wanna make sure that we have advertised it to the open market, typically based off of who you have assigned yourself with as your agent, is gonna utilize their resources, whether if it's KW West Atlanta, whoever that may be, to make sure they have the best visibility for your home. So they're gonna put their home on MLS, they're gonna make sure that they're marketing to all of the agents within their network, not just listing on MLS is what's gonna get a house sold. You wanna make sure that your agent is out there marketing, hustling, posting, talking about whatever it is to make sure that your house is marketed correctly.
Right,
okay?
and that includes like open houses and
Yes.
and things like that activity that we're gonna do to put that house in the right light.
How do you determine the best agent for that job that's really gonna hustle and work on your behalf, as opposed to just getting your house, putting it on a listing, and going to have a cup of coffee?
Well, it's the things that she was talking about. What else are they gonna do, right?
Right.
All right, so in that agreement, you're putting it in the MLS, that's the basics of what they do. They put a sign in your yard and put it in the MLS, right? Better agents are going to make sure that, okay, fine, let's make sure that we have this home open for the marketplace on certain times when they couldn't be there or when their agent can't bring them to the house. So we'll hold open houses, all right? And in doing that, we'll put up, enough signs around to make sure that the general public can see where the house is and have guidance to get to the house. All right, we'll do videos and put it on social media. I mean, everybody in here probably is on social media. And if you're not, you're probably in, so I want to say 82% are on YouTube, 69% are on Facebook. All right, so things have changed from the time when, the realtor was just, hey, you know what, your house went into a list that someone you'll hope someone's going to bring it by. Now it's more of an active market where you're going out in front of people, you're doing videos of the house, trying to make sure that everybody can see the house on a regular basis, and then you're networking with your other agents, right? Because you're matching up their buyer needs with your house, right? And you're trying to get that perfect marriage, right? To connect them. So one positive thing about dealing with Keller Williams, right? We're the largest brokerage, right? So we have close to over 170,000 agents across the country. So not just in Georgia, it's your network outside, because now, people are buying homes. I got the call yesterday from somebody from New York. He's been in my database for a while as a cop, and he's like, hey, my daughter is graduating high school next year. He was looking for next year, and he's trying to figure out, okay, hey, I want to buy, 5-bedroom house down here. My son graduated from Clark. My daughter's going to go to Clark. And he went to Hampton, which I don't know why he made that mistake. I'm a Howard grad, so I always got to throw a jab in there. All right, but he's making that move next year, and part of it is having an agent that has a network that has buyers that are looking for your house next year. All right, so it's kind of mirroring those guys and or even even around basically doing the marketing to find these buyers that are looking for your property. You still look confused. What's the follow-up question?
Only because it sounds good, right? And so you come, you tell me that I'm sold. How do I validate that what you're saying is what you actually do versus what someone else is saying is what they actually do? Is there a way to do that?
You can look at results. You can have
Absolutely.
conversations with them. You can see them on social media and see whether or not they actually are doing what they say.
You can look up that data on social media.
Well, you can
somewhere?
look and see what they've done. And
Yeah.
Simone actually has a,
I think most importantly, you can look at reviews,
yeah.
right? Get feedback from people who've actually worked with their agents. I think that's the best way to kind of give you the comfort that they might actually do what they say they're gonna do.
Okay.
I'll throw in there, just like you shop for car insurance, you know, you get to shop for agents. You get to interview them and make the best decision on how you feel that they're gonna execute on. You know, they'll bring what we call value added materials. Whenever you sit down with them and say, hey, you know, I'm looking to sell my home or buy a home, you know, how are you the best agent for me? You're having a conversation and interviewing them to make sure that they're gonna do what they said they're gonna do based on how I feel, you know, because you're gonna hire them. You know, you're the client and you're hiring them, right? So they're gonna provide the best service they can based on how you handle or how they handle that consultation initially when you reach out.
Yeah,
Wanna
my
make
question
sure
is to
that
make
they're
sure
with
it's not
you.
lip service.
Right,
Yes,
no, absolutely.
absolutely.
But
And there's-
the thing is,
As long as it's not lip service.
Yep.
the thing is, right, while you know, you have those conversations,
Mhm.
right, and you look at performance, all right, you know, so you look at who are they aligned with,
Correct.
all right, you know, I mean, because you know, selling a house is you know, it's not easy all the time, you know, situations happen, you know what I mean, and and you need somebody that, okay, hey, I can cut through all the minutia.
Yeah.
I was going to use another word, but that'll work. All right, and get you to where you want, and then having, you know, you want the ability to have an honest dialogue with them. All right, because you know not everybody's perfect. All right, and if you're not seeing what you want, or if you and their styles don't work, because it's a relationship too. All right, if you need constant feedback and you're not getting constant feedback, then you need to communicate that with your agent. Right, because there are other clients that don't need constant feedback. He may just say, "Hey, James, let's get this thing sold."
Yeah.
Right, I'll see you at the closing table. You may say, "Hey, you know what? I need to know what's going on with my property every weekend. So I want you to touch base with me on a regular basis." Right? It's just like any relationship we've been in. You know. Sorry, my mind's going to relationship stuff. Right. Everybody is different, and everybody has different needs.
Right.
But you want to make sure that someone is capable of executing the strategy the way you want it.
Correct.
So.
All of that in a nutshell. It's a relationship. So anytime typically I'm dealing with clients, I'm telling them, hey, we're about to get into a relationship. Let's date for a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. You ain't gonna date everybody. Some of them you gonna get rid of in the first couple of hours, the first couple of days.
Hey, the first couple of hours.
Hey,
You even make it through the dinner.
Some conversations just don't. Some people can't conversate, right? So there's no need to continue. But it's a relationship,
Okay.
and the biggest thing that you want to do is to build that relationship, making sure that whoever you're aligning yourself with, you guys are able to have a honest conversation that's respectful. But make sure, you know, we don't want anybody. When you're selling as an agent, you don't want anybody to be on this island and you're on a separate island and you're not in alignment, right? So if that agent, as James mentioned, if that seller wants some type of dialogue more or less dialogue, that's all based off of that relationship that you've learned from each other, working together, okay? And that's how you get to that closing table to get it solved. So the offers and the negotiations, if everything is going well, you know, we found a great buyer, maybe there's some closing costs that we've agreed to as on the seller side, maybe there was none, maybe there's some down payment assistance, so there's some negotiation that then will take place when we're at that time from the buyer. So we just have to be prepared and ready to know what we're going to accept based off of what we've established is our net price that we're willing to walk away with. Okay.
Right. And if you have multiple offers, maybe, you know, you have different options in financing, right? You know, so you want to make sure that, okay, hey, you know, all the terms that are written on that contract are negotiable, right? So you can say, hey, you know what, maybe I don't want to take it off the market for that long, so you know, we'll shorten the due diligence period, all right? Or maybe it's, hey, you know what, I'd rather have a conventional loan. Can this person go conventional? You know, so you're asking the agent to ask his lender, you know, can this loan be conventional, all right? Because I feel that those are better terms for me, all right? And they may tell you no, and by the way, I need some closing costs in order to make this happen, right? But you got to think about, you know what, you got to take your urge to make the perfect deal for you out and put in that, hey, what gets me to where I want to go, right? I'm doing this for a reason. You know, man, them stairs are still going to be them stairs, right? Am I buying this house again by telling this guy no? All right. You know, you know what? It's a great school, but I no longer need this school. I need to move closer to my grandkids, which are in Fayetteville. All right. So is that $10,000, or is it that difference that this buyer wants keeping me away from where I want to go? Right. Or do I really need that $10,000? So we're gonna wait until we get that $10,000. Meanwhile, you're looking at the other $240,000 that you're saying, hey, no, I'll put you on the shelf because I want to squeeze out every penny, all right? And which is a real thing. I mean, I don't get personal in terms of why. I'm just making sure that, okay, I give you the objective that, hey, if your grandkids ain't getting any younger, and if you want to be closer to them, you know, this is maybe the right deal for you today.
It's your option.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, so it's just kind of laying out all those things, and then when you go back to the table, try to negotiate a great term that works for you and works for the other person.
Win-win, right? So yes, going to choose an offer. Once that you've chosen your offer, the great thing is now we're under contract. Okay, that's what everybody wants to hear. The seller wants to hear we're under contract. The buyer wants to hear we're under contract. At the end of the day, on both sides of that transaction, we're both at another step closer to our goal, okay, which is the closing table. So now that you're at now that we're at the under contract, you and your buyers have agreed to all of the terms of the offer, and both parties have signed those agreements, okay? So now that we've had that, now we're gonna go through the final details on the seller side. So typically at this point, that buyer is gonna come in and they're gonna get their appraisal done. You know, they're gonna have a due diligence period that you guys have negotiated in that contract, if any. They're gonna have their inspection done first, right? To make sure they have that done within that due diligence period to figure out, pay any earnest monies that have been possibly negotiated, you know, that's needed, as well as have an appraisal completed. Typically, appraisal is ordered by the loan officer to make sure that that house is going to sell for what you're saying it's worth. There's no additional encumbrances or issues that are going to take place with that appraisal.
So I mean, what your agent is doing is making sure that all those steps are taking place, all right? Because, you know, it's kind of like, hey, we got to sign contract, we're under contract, okay, fine. When are they going to do the inspection? You know, what was the results of the inspection? Are they coming back with any repair requests, right? And are you going to agree to those repair requests so we can get them done by the time we close? Because by the time we close, we want everything to be married, right? We want everything to be, hey, you've done your repairs, and the buyer has prepared themselves financially, so their money's going to meet you at the closing table, and you're going to leave your keys at the closing table, right? So it's making sure all that takes place, right? I like to say the inspection is for the buyer, right? The appraisal is for the money, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, I may think my house is worth $1 million, all right? The buyer may agree that my house is worth $1 million, but if the bank doesn't agree, you ain't getting $1 million, right? You're gonna get the 580 the bank says that it's worth, right? So I mean that's why that appraisal is important, because that's almost the final say financially on whether or not it's going to happen, unless that buyer has, you know, the other $420,000 sitting around that they're willing to give. Hey, it's happened in some markets, right? Not in this market,
No.
right? not in that house.
Okay, so then once we have completed the appraisal, everything has aligned. It market, you know, it appraised for $500. We're purchasing it for $500. Now we can go ahead and get closed. Okay, this is the transfer of the funds and the ownership. Depending on when the buyer moves into the home, you will need to be packed up and ready to move.
Ready to go.
Get ready to get out. Okay, get your stuff. So that is the whole cycle
Yeah.
right, of the seller's
And,
role.
and I'm emphasize, right, there's still for some sellers, it's a scary point. It's like, hey, I'm packing up my stuff, you know, and I don't know where, you know, whether or not they are truly ready, you know, is the buyer truly ready? Are they going to extend? You know, and there's a certain degree of risk
Right.
that you're taking, right? And you know, so you're trusting that your real estate agent has seen this before, right? Are you comfortable with the financing? You know, have you guys received the clear to close from the lender, right? To say that, hey, this guy is financially approved, right? Was your title, you know, sometimes it's the seller's fault, all right? That the title wasn't clear, you know, that, oh yeah, you know, I put, you know, Aunt Pookie on there on my on my deed, and then she passed. Now it goes to all her kids, all right?
Seen that.
So now you got to figure out how do I, you know, what do we got to do? Hey, we got to stop the presses. We got to clear this title, all right? So you know, there are things that can go wrong in the process on both sides, right? And so when you're going through it on the buyer side, when you're going through it as a seller, right, you got to show grace, right? You know, there are things that like, this is gonna mess up my plans, but you know what? I've seen it go from the seller being at fault to the buyer being at fault, all in the sense of in an hour or two. So my buyer was pissed off that the seller wasn't going to be ready. We had to extend. Then it turns out she had an IRS issue she had to deal with, so we need to extend further. All right. So things happen during this process, and it's a dance. All right, and you know, the realtors in this room, you know, are trained to be calm, composed people. All right, you know, and we're looking at your, you know, we're trying to guide you through this process with a calm nature, right? While you may get emotional about, you know, what you think this buyer is saying or the seller is saying, right? The reality is we got to say, hey, you know what? It's probably not that. We don't have that information. You know, let's focus on the information we do have, and let's remain calm and let's move forward. All right. You know, so that's what you're getting when you're getting a realtor, is you're also getting a voice of reason, all right, during an emotional situation. All right. You know, it's like having your minister with you during the marriage, like all the time. Well, let me stop. I'm talking, that's counseling, but anyway. Anyway, all right. So. Enough of my jaded jokes. What's next? Roadmap. All right. Couple things on emphasis on pricing, and this goes both ways. All right. Especially when you're selling a house. All right. Regardless of what you say, you know, what you think the house is worth, the market's going to tell you what the house is worth. All right. And then the appraisal tells you what you know, whether or not the market was right, you know, or everything around it, is everything selling for the same price. So if you price it and, you know, there's no activity, then you miss the price, right? Which is fine. Everybody makes mistakes. Both buyers and agents make mistakes, or sellers make mistakes, right? You got to get it down to, you know, you may have to drop the price a little bit. So if there's more activity but still no offers, then you're probably still a little high. All right, but so it's reading the tea leaves that's important, and you want an agent that's going to be able to read it and say, hey, we need to make a move on the price, right? We need to get this down to where we're getting the offers that I'm expecting. And even in the slower market, you got to decide what is right, right? So, but a house that's priced right is going to receive offers, and you want the options of being able to say, hey, you know, I like this offer versus the other one, and this gets me to where, you know, getting me close to the grandkids, or gets me to that house without stairs, or whatever your need was, right? It gets me closer to that. You know, we talked about, you know, the market, supply and demand. You know, that's always going to be a driver in any real estate, in any transactional situation. It's going to be supply and demand, right? How many houses are available, right? And then how many people want to buy a house, right? So when interest rates were low, there was a lot of demand for homes and not as much supply. All right. So when it was 3% 2.5 years ago, you know, you had multiple offers on the house. That's when I was like, hey, I wake up on a Thursday, hey, we're going to list a house. Sign out there. By the time I put the sign in the ground, I got to take it up.
That's
All
what we
right.
had the no marketing realtors also.
Yeah, I mean,
Just playing.
what I mean, no, but really, I mean, what it was is in that time, marketing wasn't as
Didn't
important,
need it.
You didn't need it.
right? But in this time, you really got to market a house, right? You got to price it right, and you got to be active in terms of making sure that the house is available to be shown, right? Because it ain't easy. It's not as easy as it was, right? And you know, you'll see a lot of folks that are no longer in this business because of that, right? So I mean, it's understanding what the market conditions are, the economic conditions in the market. Just coming up with Trump with all the tariffs. Everybody's now kind of got thrown into a certain degree of uncertainty, right? Because how is that going to impact me, right? No one knows how is that. What's that going to be for my job? What's that going to be for the price of materials, to do repairs and everything else. Home condition always plays into it. So I mean, you really did. I can't re-emphasize the fact that when you are selling, that you need to price it for the market, that's coming. Kind of where are things going. You need a good agent to tell you where things are, right? So we held you hostage here, telling you about buying and selling, where most of you guys want to talk about, the financing. All right. Here's Simone. Simone is a very experienced lender. Well, I'll let her do her introduction.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. My name is Simone Phillip. I am a mortgage loan originator, mortgage loan officer broker, which is really a fancy name for a lender or the person that gets you the money you need to buy the house. Okay. Today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about leveraging the different loan types to help you purchase the home. But before I do that, I wanted to kind of tie in everything that we've all talked about. Just give you like a quick snapshot of how it all goes together. Okay, so the first step, yes, you talk with your real estate agent and they'll point you in the direction of a lender. We're gonna talk about where do you stand? How much do you qualify for? What's your income? What's your credit score? All of the details, right? And then we're gonna come up with what you qualify for. What are you pre-approved for? Okay, you'll then get a pre-approval letter. You'll take that letter to your agent, and that's how you know, okay, this is what I qualify for, this is the house I can afford, this is what my monthly payment is gonna be, this is how much my closing cost is gonna be. You're gonna know that before you go put an offer in. Okay, so you're not gonna know closer to the end. You're gonna have a good idea of what you have to come to the table with, okay? After you find the home that you love and it goes on the contract, we basically start the loan process. That process itself takes about 30 days. Okay, during that process, we're gonna do a few different things. We're gonna put you basically in underwriting. We're gonna make sure that everything that I've already looked at, like your income, your assets, your credit, actually does make you a qualified buyer. Okay, so the underwriter is gonna look at everything. They're gonna ask for, okay, we approved this loan, but we wanna know why his last name is Jones instead of what his ID says. Okay, so little things may come up that we just work on getting it cleared. Right, that's how that works. After we put you.
And they may ask that question twice. No, let me stop.
After we kind of work through clearing your conditions, we're gonna make sure that the property qualifies. So that's what they were talking about with the appraisal. We wanna make sure the appraisal is actually what you're buying it for. Because if it doesn't, the lender's not gonna give you the money to buy it, right? We wanna make sure that it's livable, it's safe. You're not buying something that you're gonna have to pay for in 5 years. The roof is gonna break down in 5 years or something like that. So we wanna make sure it actually qualifies and it meets the requirements, right? We're gonna also do a title work, right? We're gonna look back at the chain of title. We're gonna look at the very first person who owned it to how you, the sellers, now acquired it. We wanna make sure it's a clean chain of title, okay? And during the 30 days, those are the little things that we work on, right? We're just working on clearing all the conditions and getting to the closing table. Getting to the magic words, clear to close, right? When you hear that, that means that, you've met all the requirements for the lender, that the property meets all the requirements and everything, and everything has been cleared. You get your clear to close, that means you go to the closing table at the attorney's office and you sign your paperwork.
I always thought that it meant an angel came down from.
That's what it means. So this is why it can be stressful, because during the 30 days, you're dealing with all these different things that can come up. Things that you didn't even think about, right? Did you owe the IRS last year? right? You have to pay that off before you buy. Like, things can come up, so it can be stressful, right? But if you have, if you're prepared and you know what you need up front and you check all your boxes up front, it makes the process go smoother. So I hope that helped tie it in a little better with everything that they shared. You guys feel free to interrupt me at any time to ask any questions, okay? All right, let's dive in, James. All right, how a homeowner can become an investor. Leveraging FHA conventional and investor loans to start your journey, okay? Next slide, please. We're gonna talk about FHA loans first. Okay, with an FHA loan, the minimum credit score requirement is a 580, okay? The minimum down payment requirement is a 3.5%. Okay, that's 3.5% of the purchase price. That doesn't include your closing costs. Okay, closing costs is about another 3 to 4% of the purchase price. Okay, there are different things we can do. We can use down payment assistance if you don't have all the funds. We can use a real great realtor like James to help negotiate for the seller to cover some of your closing costs, all of your closing costs.
And the other agents in this office.
Also saying they told you
We can
to.
use it.
Any agent in office, yes. But you can use, negotiations to kind of help you cover your closing costs. But just if the seller is not willing to cover your closing costs, know that you have to come to the table with your closing costs and your down payment, okay? Okay, so let's say after you've purchased your home, you want to turn your home into an investment property and then buy a new home, right? So this can be something for you because you own a home, right? Okay, so it's important to know that you have to qualify for the new home that you're buying and still be able to make the mortgage payment on the current home that you own. So there's things you can do with FHA. If you're buying a new home with another FHA loan, you can do that, but you have to live at least 100 miles away, or the homes have to be 100 miles away from each other.
Okay, one question. What if I own the home outright and clear?
Perfect, so then you don't have this problem,
Okay.
okay? So you could put 3.5% down with FHA if it's gonna be your primary home, okay? If the homes are within 100 miles, you cannot use an FHA loan to buy a new home. You'd have to go conventional, okay? Conventional is different. Conventional will allow you to do pretty much, if you wanna buy a home that's right down the street from the other one, you can do it, okay? Next slide, James.
No.
I kind of touched on this a little bit already, but if you wanted to buy a new home, you have to be able to cover both mortgages, right? So what we can do, if you have the home that you're selling, if you have it rented out, you can kind of use that rental income to offset the debt. Okay, you can use 75% of that to offset the debt, right? So even if you have it rented, we're still gonna do an appraisal to make sure we know what the market rent value is. Okay, so if you're renting it for $2,500 a month and the market value says you can get $3,000 a month, we're gonna go off of the $2,500 because it's the lower, right? If it's the other way around, we're gonna go off of what the market appraisal says. Okay, so it still has to be in line, okay?
Now, you mentioned the 75%. Why the 75% as opposed to 100%?
That's just the requirements for FHA and conventional loans.
Okay.
They'll never give you 100%.
Okay.
With a conventional loan, your minimum credit score requirement is a 620, and a conventional loan, if you're a first-time home buyer, it's 3% down. Okay, let's say you've owned a home within 3 years, it's still gonna, and you want to buy a new home with conventional, it's not gonna be 3% down, it's gonna be 5% down. FHA, if you're buying a home and it's your primary home, regardless of if you had a home a year ago and you sold it, it's still gonna be 3.5% down. Conventional, if you have a home and you've owned it within 3 years and you sell it, you're still gonna pay 5% because you're no longer a first-time home buyer. Okay? Conventional is a little stricter with the guidelines and qualifying. So I like to, it says 620, but I like to say maybe like a 660 and really clean credit. That might be a better option for you, right? And the difference with conventional and FHA, with conventional, your private mortgage insurance drops off after you've paid 20% of the loan off.
Does
Okay?
that happen automatically?
It's supposed to happen automatically, but you can call them once you've paid it off. But it's supposed to happen automatically. Okay? FHA, that doesn't happen until you have 11 years left on the loan. So FHA sticks with you pretty much for the life of the loan. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Next one, please. I missed this, I'm sorry. So with FHA, if you are flipping from, if your goal is to build a rental portfolio, right? You can use your FHA loan in the beginning to buy your first home, because you know you have that low down payment. But you have to live in it for a year before you can rent it out. Okay? Conventional doesn't require you to live in it for a year. You can change your mind in a month, 2 months, 3 months. Hey, this home isn't for me. I'm gonna go buy a new one. I'm gonna rent this one out. Just know that the new one is 5% up. Okay?
And that's because you're no longer a first-time home buyer.
Correct. And FHA doesn't, conventional doesn't have that same rule with FHA where you have to be 100 miles away from, the homes have to be 100 miles away from each other. Renovating. So let's say you want to buy your first home and you can't find the home that you want, or the perfect home is just out of your price budget, and you just want to, you find something that just needs a little love or a little work, right? We have a loan called the 203K loan that allows you to wrap in the cost of the renovations and the purchase price to buy a home, okay? It works the same way with the down payment. It's 3.5% down, but the only difference is if the purchase price is $100,000 and the renovation cost is $40,000, you're buying the house for $140,000. Okay? We have the same thing with conventional. You can push, James. The same thing with conventional. It allows you to do, the same thing, wrap in the closing costs. It just kind of depends on what you qualify for. If FHA is a better route for you, or if conventional is a better route for you. Okay? You have any questions? You just look like you have questions.
No, my mind is in another plane, so to speak, because I'm not looking, my mindset is more of an investor. And
Okay.
I'm just thinking that when you're talking about, if you are investing, does all that change?
It depends on where you are in the process. Okay, so this is kind of a roadmap to help you get started with investing, right? You buy your first home as a primary home, you live in it for a year, and you move on. You rent out the first home, right? How do you get to the second home with a low down payment, right? If we did FHA, you live in it for a year, then you can go again 3.5% down. If you can't do that, you go conventional, 5% down, right? So you now have 2 homes, right? The third one, which I will get to, becomes an investment, meaning in the eyes of a lender, meaning you no longer qualify for 3.5 or 5% down. Now it's 20% down.
Gotcha.
So this is how you get to that investor point, right? So it still helps if you're just focused on buying one home, being a first-time home buyer and living in that home forever. It still works, right? But if you want to build that portfolio, this is how you kind of get there with a low down payment. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I think the next slide is about the investor loan. You can skip to the next one.
Skip this one?
Yeah, this is the investor loan. So as I mentioned before, after those 2 homes, you're now an investor. Okay, you're not a first-time home buyer anymore. And it becomes very complicated when you want to become an investor, because now you're talking about 20% down plus closing costs. Okay, and there's a lot of different routes you can go. So let's say, for example, you can go conventional and be an investor. You can have up to 10 conventional loans under your credit, okay, if your income can sustain it, okay? If you're sticking with conventional, you have to be able to afford all of the mortgages, unless you've started renting them out, and I'm not gonna dive too deep into it, but unless you start renting them out and you have the income to show and offset it, you have to be able to qualify for all of them. This is my little secret loan that I just absolutely love, okay? Because this loan doesn't take into consideration anything you already own, or the debt that you already have for those homes. You just have to come with your 20%, and all this loan requires is that the home that you're buying, the potential rent you can get from it will cover the potential mortgage. That's it. And it doesn't worry about debt to income ratio or anything like that on you. It's just the actual property.
Is that standard? I mean, if I go in to an office to talk about, hey, I wanna invest in this property, I already have 2 properties, so now I'm an investor. So can I come and look into a DSCR loan?
So everybody doesn't do it. I'm a loan officer broker, mostly brokers do it.
Okay,
It's a loan strictly for investors. But if you mention the name of it and your loan officer doesn't know about it, I would stray in the next direction. Okay?
And
Right.
the
If they-
realtor
if they-
typically will know which lenders that they're working with who offer these types of programs for their clients. That's also the incentive of having a great realtor, is they're knowing who their partners are and what their partners are offering that matches your what you're trying to accomplish.
And they know their partner's strengths, right? Not everybody, you know, there may be some at a bank that, hey, they have great community down payment type programs, right? But they're not gonna have a DCSR,
Yes.
right, in order to help you from the investment standpoint. All right, so do you guys notice the trend here? Everything starts with a realtor, right?
So that's my little spiel. I know I went through it quickly because I know we're a little short on time. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? I'm also available if you want to talk one-on-one. I left a little packet so you guys can go over what are the requirements to get started, what items you're gonna need, what documents you need to have before you have a conversation with your lender. And, you know, also you can scan this little QR code and set up a complimentary consultation if you just wanna see where you stand, right? If you just wanna get a game plan, you can just set up a meeting with me and I'll be happy to help you guys.
thank you.
All right?
All right, so the last up is, and not least, is because we talked about the renovation process, right? Or talked about, you know, one question, go ahead.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, man, absolutely. This is for you guys, so I mean, go ahead, shoot.
Simone, you are a broker,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
What is the difference between going to a broker and going to a bank?
I would love to answer that question. So a bank has one underwriting team, one set of loan products, one set of guidelines they have to follow. I have 200 lenders, right? That means I can find the best product for you, which may not be the same one for him. You know what I mean? I have lenders that, yes, FHA is a 580, but some lenders want you to have a debt to income of 43, right? A debt to income ratio of 43. But I have another lender that'll make you go up to the full 56, right? Or you might need a down payment assistance program that another lender has, right? I'm able to do different things because I have options. And I have wholesale rates, right? So we beat rates because it's wholesale. Just like wholesale retail, wholesale is also always gonna be cheaper. That's the main difference.
Gotcha.
All right, so
I've always wondered why I've had more success with brokers than
yeah.
banks.
That's
So
fine.
Now I know.
from a agent's perspective,
Yeah.
is what a bank is looking for someone that fits their profile.
Okay.
Right. This is our box. This is what we're great at. Right. A broker has multiple boxes to see whether or not, hey, can I fit you into this box? This is going to be the right product for you. All right. Everybody is not the same. All right. We don't wear our credit on our forehead. You know, our spending habits aren't. You know, I can't look on your sleeve and say, oh, okay, yeah. But what about that Corvette? You know what I mean? Everybody's situation is different, right? You got some of you got kids and you signed up for your kids' loans. Right, some of you, you know, you don't have anything and you're sitting pretty with an 800 credit score, right? Banks will love you, all right, you know, but, you know, not everybody's situation is the same, right? So you can't just point them to, hey, go down to your bank. And for the record, you know, banks and bank employees, you know, a lot of them are salaried, right? Which means that you getting this house does nothing for their income, all right? So you know, come 5 o'clock, you know, I'm working on your file. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Because I got my kids game to go to. Not that Simone's gonna be carrying her file to her kid's game, right? But she will answer a phone call. You know, hey, go Jimmy. Hey, James. Okay, I'm gonna get your client taken care of. Like, here's where this file is. You know, I already have it in with my underwriter. Let me text them. You know what I mean? So sometimes it comes down to what is their motivation and how hard are they gonna work for you. All right. So when you're out looking for that investment property on the weekend with your realtor, and you look over your realtor, you're like, hey, this is the one. And they're like, okay, cool, let me write this offer. All right. Hey, you know, okay, you're using this DCSR loan. Yeah, we know that, okay, this is right on the cusp of what she said that it might be approved for. Hey, Simone, can you run this number for us to see where we are, right? You ain't got to wait till Monday at 12 o'clock after she had her coffee and had her team meeting to get that information. Right, we might be able to get that Sunday night or Sunday. That okay, she's looking at me like, yeah, that was last week.
Done that to me, by the way.
Hey, and another version. Enjoy, right? But you know, you want somebody who's gonna hustle and you know, help you out, right? So you can be that one that's gonna give them that offer, the first offer that goes in, right? For them to make a decision to take yours versus, hey, now on Monday everybody's offer comes in. And you're one of many. All right. So I mean, it comes down to that interpersonal stuff that you want an agent that fits your personality and that's going to work hard for you, and you want them to have team members that are going to do the same thing. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So any more questions?
Thank you. Promise.
No. You're open to have more questions. We're just gonna limit the ones that smoke. No. All right. I should have been doing stand up. Well, no, maybe not. All right. So the next partner that I'm bringing up is Renomax. All right, and they fit into the equation in a couple different ways, right? So you heard us talk about it in terms of, you know, okay, hey, from the seller standpoint, you know, hey, you know, in order to get you max money, right, you may need to get some work done. Well, it'd be great if you had a contractor, right, that would come in there and assess what's going on, be able to fix it, and then not ask for their payment until you close. All right, because that helps you with your liquidity, because you ain't gonna get that pot of gold until we're closed, right? Right. And you know, I'm still in this funder. Go ahead, man.
No, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Keep on. Have at it. Hey guys, I appreciate y'all's time, and I want to first off, I'll start off by saying that James and I have been working together about 5 years now.
Yeah.
And everything he does and his team is excellent, top shelf, and it's second to none in this industry. And it's always a pleasure to work with him. So, and I appreciate you guys having us out. What we do is the fun stuff. Let's say that you've got a property, one of these, and it looks to me like you think about being an investor, I'm just saying with you, right? So you got to sell that house. We do a lot of selling of houses that have been rented. Renters, as we know, don't take good care of houses. One we're about to show you is a perfect example of that. So when you've got to go sell that house and you've got tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage, and you might not want to invest that resource into selling that, what we would do is we would come in and take that project and get the renovations done necessary to get you the top dollar for that house and postpone the payment until the house sells, just like what James was saying. There's nothing out of your pocket, there's no credit check. The only thing we do is we put a lien on the property until the house sells, and that's how we secure our interest on that. So, and a good example of this is this house that we're about to show you just went on the market, and it's one of our more dramatic turnarounds. And this house, there was some emotion attached to it because the lady that ended up, it was inherited through her parents. She grew up in this house, and so she rented it. She lived out of state. She rented the house, and when we got to it, before we get into the pictures, I'll tell you this: the condition of the house. We had 3 dead possums, 1 live raccoon, and several live snakes that were living in this house. So that tells you the condition of the house.
So the snakes and the possum won, huh?
Exactly. So when we got there, obviously there was a lot of work that needed to be done. The best cash offer that was that's okay. The best cash offer that they got on this house was $75,000 in its present condition, and it literally had to be gutted. new HVAC, new roof. As you can see, walls, floors, kitchen, baths, the whole 9 yards. It literally was basically a rebuild, took the shell and rebuilt it. So these are some of the conditions that we found the house in. This is the original kitchen. As you can see, there's a wall that goes into the back living room there. This kitchen is on a wall that was going into a room on this side. They had some kind of brick veneer. The tenant tried to do something to give it some kind of brick veneer on the wall that was half done, half not, pulling the sheetrock off the walls, horrible condition. Next slide. And there we go.
That's a whole different.
Move the kitchen from this wall that was here over to this corner, took this wall out, gave it an open concept. So when you walk into the house, you've got open concept. The wall that's going into, well, you can't see it on this one yet, but where that picture on the top left is going straight back into the kitchen. That's from the living room. There was a wall there, and we relocated the door, did some other things to make that, to accommodate that. But as you can see, now we have an open concept house.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So that house, present condition, when we showed up was $75,000. We just listed it for $379, and our cost for what, Chris, was $160?
160.
160 for that. So that's a net gain of what we say, $144,000.
Right.
And this was a little bit more dated. This one took a little more time, as you can imagine. This was about a 3.5 month process to get this from here to there. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, it's free. This is for you.
When it comes to, so that's a very good profit, right?
Mhm.
But when you make the decision to invest in that property, it was going to sell for like 75.
Mhm.
You take into account the neighborhood and whether the homes in the neighborhood
Yes.
are
Yes.
going for that higher price.
Yes, sir. That's an excellent question. We pull the comps
matters.
and then we base it on a after repair value. This is the same thing that you were talking with the 203
Yes.
loan and that we do the same thing. We go in and pull the comps, and we'll go a little bit on the conservative side, because we don't want to get over our skis. This one was 100% equity. She owned it free and clear, so there wasn't a mortgage to have to jump over or anything like that. So we knew we were safe, and we felt strong that we could get the results. And of course, nothing happens till it sells, but it's been on the market, what, 2 weeks now?
Oh,
Almost 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah,
Almost.
yeah, it's been on the market for 2 weeks, and it's had activity, so, and like you said, they're sitting a little longer than they did back in the good old days when the paint wasn't dry and the house would be under contract.
Yeah.
Or he'd call me and I'd go measure, he'd call me and I'd go, on the way home, he said, don't worry about it, we under contract.
Wow.
So, those were the good old days. But here's some of the bathroom transformations you can see.
The one before.
Bedroom.
Yeah, that's the wall that when we first came in, and this was, they had squatters in there at one time too.
Wow.
They had what, squatters in there?
Squatters.
Okay, nice.
There's your squatter.
Okay.
He or
Can
she
we-
got out of there before we.
Can we go before?
I wish they would.
The one before.
Next one.
I never told Chris about the snakes, cause I knew she wouldn't go in there.
Let's see, before, hold on. Like I know what I'm doing.
This is where you need your grandson.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
You can do it with the arrows.
Escape.
Okay, I gotta close this out. All right,
Go.
and then,
Just with the arrows, I think.
Just. There we go.
There we go. Something
That
happened.
That's
one?
the last one.
That's the one you wanted?
No, we already, we skipped like 4.
Keep going.
Yeah, that's the last.
see,
That's the end.
I let somebody else do that, so I can see, it ain't just
You
me.
got company, huh?
Right, all right,
You should have taken
Like the
pictures.
third,
third from the end?
it was a third slide.
Where are we at, 37? 36.
Before,
While they're doing that, those are dramatic, this is one of the more dramatic ones.
33?
We also do just what we call
Before?
rapid refreshes, where you go in and you take care of maybe the fresh coat of paint, a countertop, and or some flooring, stuff like that. But the one thing that we
Next
need to
one?
insist on.
the next one.
There we go.
There we go,
Yep,
yeah.
there's your bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's your master bathroom.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
what happened to the can of paint that exploded in there, right?
You know, there's a lot of questions about that. We moved,
Hey,
we moved some
let's
closets.
paint everything, including the sink.
Including the sink. Jeez.
We had a lot of questions. We rewired the house. We actually added a half bathroom in the laundry room as you come in. So you got a half bath on the front end of the house. It was an enclosed carport. The carport was enclosed so short that you could never turn it back into the carport. So we just kept it enclosed, made it living space, dropped in the HVAC vents in there so they would qualify for heated space.
Okay.
And then the same thing with the half bathroom. So it added, how many square, it added what, 400 something square feet to the footprint?
It was like 1,600 and it went to 2,400,
That's it,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah.
It really added a
2,200.
substantial amount of heated floor space as
Yeah.
well. So, and our guys, you know, they do, we do anything from, like I said, the curb back. That's a very dramatic transformation. That's not our average. Our average is more in the $30,000 range. Paint, flooring, countertops, rotted wood, stuff like that. That's our average ticket. But I know there's a lot of people here that are interested in the investment side of this. We do this for the investors as well. And so if you guys are going out there and securing any type of, after what I've seen from you, I wouldn't want any hard money. I'd be doing what you're doing. But if anybody has a hard money loan, a lot of times you're paying a lot of money for that loan. You know that, you pay it to, and that's almost as much as your renovation sometimes, and it's really crazy. So what we do, we have a program for the investors that you put up the house, we put up the reno, and we partner, and we get paid at closing the same way. We split a profit based off of what the percentage would be of how much you're putting up, how much we're putting up. That's negotiated at the scope. So we take the materials and labor off the top, then we settle up at closing, and we will agree on that before we get started. And so that helps out the investors, it helps y'all's cash flow, and obviously helps us. We stay in business, we keep doing it. So. The key component to this is when you guys have a house and that you want to sell it, there's always going to be something. We're trying to keep that home inspector away. That list short and not too much to amendment to address concerns. One of the other things that we do, I failed to mention, one of the things that we're doing now, James, is we are bringing in a certified home inspector to give a pre-sale home inspection that goes with our.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
us. We take care of that. It's not on you. It's on us. So we address those items, or if sometimes the homeowner doesn't want to address all the items, but at least we've identified those items. 90% of them are going to be addressed in our scope.
Right.
Then you need that inspector to look behind the walls and find out what they're going to show.
Right, what else will be missing,
Correct.
right?
And so we'll have that. We'll address them now. You'll have an invoice that'll show that all those items have been addressed and we put on the market. So when the buyer's agent brings in their inspector, we're going to say, we're taking care of this, and this, and that'll help as well.
So this works with selling. You have to sell, right? Do you
Yes.
ever work with people who actually want to keep the home?
Yes, we're wrapping up next week our 203 that was on the golf course in Roswell, where we did all kind of cool stuff. We built a wine cellar, bar area. We did the whole top roof. You name it. It was a $260-something thousand project, and that was in the 203.
The 203K loan? Perfect, okay, this is nice.
So how was that process for you? So you had to get paid, you got paid in stages.
We got paid in stages. What happens is they'll give you half your material cost up front, this particular, and I'm assuming they all kind of work the same. You get half your material cost up front, and then you do it in process with up to 6 draws, and they'll send an inspector out, homeowner signs off on it, send the inspector out, and then we pull the draw. We did it in 3 draws, but that's how it works. We could get up to 6 if needed. And it was a larger project too. One of the bad things that happened in that was we found a rotted wall that had completely washed out underneath it. So we had to do a change order, and it was almost an urgent situation where we had to do it immediately.
A rotting wall?
A whole rotted wall, the whole underneath their little galley kitchen, and they had the breakfast nook that went off to it. Underneath that, the water had come in under the subfloors and was washing it out. And so we had to go in there, brace that thing up, take the stucco off the side, build back up, put new doors on, and it stopped our process for a minute because we had to go change our process.
You addressed the water that was?
All the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a French drain, ran the French drain down the side of the house, and took care of that.
Wow.
Good
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you guys didn't learn anything, I did. All right. Any questions for Greg?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. Hey guys, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys coming out.
This is good.
Right. You know, did you have any other questions or anything that you guys?
Thank you for calling
you know, that you guys wanted to, that wasn't covered here?
You gonna come?
All right.
Everything.
Huh?
So you covered everything.
All right, good. All right, look, we, you know, at the end of the day, we're real estate agents. We want to help you guys. We want to help you with your journey. If you look in that package, and I'm not sure if you guys all have packages yet. Hold on.
Yeah, I didn't get one.
Okay. All right. If you look at the package, I can do this. All right. You know, it has some of those slides that were covered in. You may have that in front of you. You know, and it has some material on like the buyer broker. So we talked about the, you know, on the buy side. In order to start that process, right, you got to identify the agent you want to work with. All right. So there's a if you look on there, there's a buyer broker agreement. Right. So on the left side, underneath all the stack of information. All right. Right. Similarly, when you're getting ready to sell, there's going to be a listing agreement. Right. That's your commitment to working, to partnering with an agent. All right. So read that over carefully. One thing that's changed since I've been given these is that on the buyer side, on the buy side, right, they made it now where the buyer is responsible for the agent's commission. Right. But that is still it is still something that sellers, you know, they realize that they probably have to cover still. All right. So what we tend to do is there's an agreement on that purchase and sales agreement. It's a buyer broker compensation. It's agreement that the seller is going to pick up the buyer's the buyer agent's compensation. All right. So it's an agreement on that. But right now, what they did was, I don't know if you remember, like going back last August, there was this big lawsuit with the NRA, and they won, yay, for sellers. Well, the reality is, having an agent protects the buyer, having an agent protects the seller, right? Because now it sets the expectation to make sure the process is going to go smoother, all right? That agent, needs to be compensated, right? And quite honestly, buyers, when you're buying a house, man, you look, I saved, my 3.5% for my down payment or my 5% for my down payment. I got to pay money to close this deal, right? You ain't gonna have it all, right? And sellers on the same side saying, hey, I have all this paper money tied up in my house, right? It's great on paper, but it ain't. I can't take it down to the bank. Well, maybe some banks you can, right? But I can't take it to my next door neighbor and say, or somebody else, or to pay my kid's college and say, hey, I got this house that I have all this equity on, so I got to turn that equity into cash, all right? And so you got to have both sides married together to do that, right? And traditionally it's been that they paid the compensation for the agents. All right, so the only thing that's changed is that in that agreement, you at the end of the day, the buyer is still responsible, but we're going to be asking the seller to cover that. And if the seller doesn't agree, that's just another term of the contract, right? And so maybe that's not the house you need to buy. Let's go find one that the seller is going to agree to. All right,
but that's the thought process for all agents now?
What's that?
Is that the thought process for agents now? That you go, even though the document says one thing, you want to go back to the seller and ask them to cover.
It is to the point where it is an exhibit on the purchase and sales agreement.
Okay.
So it is something that all agents need to cover. All right, and they need to educate you on that's what's going on. So this is nothing new. All right, from that perspective, right? Some agents will say, yeah, you know what, you're responsible, and you're responsible, right? At the end of the day, I know that, look, I know when I'm on the other side, my money's tight, and I want to keep as much of it as possible, right? And it costs a lot to buy a house, all right? And, putting you in the right position, that's my goal. So when you sign that document as an agent, right, your financial issues are my financial issues to a certain degree, right? I got to look out for your money, right? So I have a certain level of fiduciary responsibility when you sign that document. Because now we're working together, right? You're gonna call me up and say, James, what's up? Simone says I'm ready to go. I'm ready to buy this house, and I need this cash to close. Well, I got half of it. What you got, James? I'm gonna be like, I don't know. Like, but we're gonna find a house that's going to agree with this term, all right? And if not, we'll shoot our shot somebody else, all right? So that, which is how the process goes. Then we go out and look for houses. We write the offers. We get you out there, and then we walk through those steps, that were laid out, all right? And then if something new comes up, we're gonna stop and we're gonna say, hey, we need to address this, or this came up with the house in negotiating. Okay, hey, let's get Greg in there. Maybe he can give us an estimate on what it's going to cost, right? So we can give that to the seller and say, hey, you know what? In the amendments to address concerns, we need these things adjusted. This is the cost of what it's going to cost to fix. Hey, we got a vendor that can do that for you, right? Because we still want to move forward with this house, or you can give us a credit and then we'll get it repaired after we close, right? Because now when you get a credit, right, that's money that you don't have to bring to the table. So the assumption is you can take those funds and pay Greg directly. That's the assumption. All right. So, but so it's. I'm sorry. Did you raise your hand?
No, not something to say.
You talking again?
No, we have a few gift cards.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
So we're gonna ask a few questions to see if you guys are paying attention, and give you some gift cards.
I know you got
So I'll let you can ask two questions, right?
Okay.
You can ask one,
Okay.
and then somebody else can ask one. But my question is, what's the minimum credit score requirement for conventional loans?
560.
Conventional.
All right, 620, you got it.
Conventional.
Conventional.
All right, let me ask one more question. If you did the FHA loan to buy your second home, how many miles?
100.
Okay.
All right. Okay. This is gonna be a tough one. All right. So on the roadmap to buy a home and on the roadmap to sell a home, what's the first step?
There you go.
She
said it.
Getting your agent.
Boom! That's what I'm talking about. No, my question is gonna be me focused. No. All right.
And I have the another question. This is definitely on the buyer and seller side. So typically, when you both executed the contract negotiations that you wanted, the seller and the buyer, you have a win-win. Typically, from that lender, we get those magic words that everybody want to hear. That's the seller and the buyer.
Something to close.
What?
Ready to close.
What is it to close?
Yeah, that's the first word I know. It's not ready to close.
I can see the rain.
Clear to close.
There we go. Clear to close, those magic words, right?
I can see clearly.
Right.
The rain is gone.
We gotta thank Isaiah.
Elijah.
Elijah.
For the look.
For a little
Y'all
transition.
remember it now.
Right. Hey, one more question. You got one for me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I gotta ask it. All right.
Or anybody, think of a question.
All right. Who you guys gonna call for to be your agent?
That sounds like a self-service.
No, that's serious.
So is the answer James or is the answer Keller Williams?
Either one's accepted. No, but
Or it's the person you call.
Person. Right. Right. Elijah works too. Right. You spoke up.
No, I got two already.
Right. I got a question for you.
Okay, what's your question?
In regards to finding a place.
He hasn't got them.
In regards to finding a place that I want to buy.
Mhm.
Okay. I personally, just me, I know what I want.
Right.
So I'm gonna go out and find that. can I then get with your Keller Williams, say, hey, talk to someone to start the process and getting that property?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I want.
yeah. I mean, it's having a conversation, all right. But what I would suggest is that you do it in the inverse, right? Is you identify the person you want to work with.
Okay,
right?
I
Because
understand that.
You're going to be tied to that person for the next 30 days in that process. All right. So it's like finding the home, because I have a lot of people do this. They'll say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get financed until I find a home.
Mhm.
They find a home, they run to the bank and get financed. That home is gone. Because somebody else did it the other way, right? They got the financing, they found their team, and then they wrote the offer on the home. So they were ready to act. I really employ everybody to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
There you go.
Okay? That is the way this market right now is a little slower, but don't let the smooth taste fool you. All right? It seems like it could be your house could be on the market, or the house could be on the market for 60 days, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be there on day 63. Day 63, everybody finds that house. And they got 3 offers. I've done this all time and time again. Well, I'm like, okay, it should be slow. We got our offer in, and by the end of that weekend, they got 2 more. All right, because they did something that started to attract those buyers. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right. This is part of the stay ready process by you guys coming here. Right, identifying, having the conversations. I know when I bought my first house, I knew none of this stuff. Honestly, I went in, I'll be honest with you, my ex-wife was like, hey, we're gonna buy this house. And I was like, buy a house? Why do I need to buy a house? We got this dope apartment, we're in Dunwoody, I'm up and down Roswell Road, I'm feeling like, okay, I was young, I was a lot younger. Right, I had what was left of my hair. It was a nice little tight fade. The forehead out. It was an M. Then it became a W, and then it became a W for period on the back. All right, but I was living life. I was just turning 30, and she was like, I'm gonna buy a house. Are you coming with me? And it kind of changed my attitude. I was like, okay, honey. Yeah, let's go get this house, right? And it was still, I was led through this process. No one took the time to educate me on what those steps were. They just said, hey, you need to pay off that Amex card, and you need to pay off them student loans, and then your credit will be better enough to get this house. And then we put our money down. They didn't tell me about any due diligence process about new construction. They didn't tell me that, okay, hey, when I put that money down, if something happened, I really didn't have much control. I mean, not that I would have changed anything, but at least I would have knew going into the process about what I could do and what I can't do. Right? They didn't tell me not to buy a car while I was going through the process.
Debt to ratio, yep.
Right, but I mean, yeah, it was, you need somebody, you need your team that's looking out for you. Right? And that's the reason why I employ you to, again, connect with the right realtor.
Yeah.
All right. And then, we'll guide you on that process. So.
Well, I have another question because you still have the gift card.
She you can tell.
What?
She on these gift cards.
Yeah, right?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
What's the minimum down payment required for FHA or conventional? Yep, there we go.
All right.
All right, I feel
Man,
good.
you're gonna drink coffee good. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate your time. The team appreciate you coming out here. All right. And I think everybody signed and gave me your contact info, right? All right. Well, cool. We'll definitely be in touch.
I have something for you. The flyer that you sent
Thank you guys for coming.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Airbnb.
Okay.
And we had these people come. We don't have it anymore, but they remember that they contacted us. So they were asking, they actually like this area, they didn't want to move it. So they were asking for a realtor. So I sent her your flyer.
Perfect. That's exactly it.
So Don and Sherry, so if they mention that, then you know it's not just our
Right. Absolutely.
Hey, guys online, thank you.
No, and it's fine.
We'll be in touch.
Also, you have an opportunity.
Oh, no, my community said, no, can't do Airbnb.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't do it anymore.
Okay.
Right now, I'd like to do that with somebody like that owns a studio.
Okay.
People coming in, and swing for like 2 to 3 times.
Okay.
Then I'll do it.
Awesome. Okay, well, definitely.
But I gotta make some contacts first.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's on my card.
Oh, thank you.
She did not have it. I know you got my flyer information, and then I had your telephone number. You got my voicemail, right?
Yes,
And I called
I
you
did.
back. Perfect.
I did.
Perfect.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for coming. You definitely was ready.
I've never had an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, you,
Of any realtor.
absolutely. This is exactly what we're looking for, that engagement, the opportunity to, make sure you educated as well as us. Every deal is different, just like raising a kid, raising a family, ain't nobody the same. So that's even aligning yourself with the realtors, their partners and things like that. It's all about who you align yourself with
This
at
was,
the end of the day.
it is, and this was really eye-opening for me. It answered a lot of questions that I had in general.
Right.
You know, so now I can operate on facts.
Right.
And not just what I've learned over the years.
Right, absolutely.
So why do I need a realtor? No, no.
Negotiation.
You guys work hard.
We work hard.
You do work hard.
And we make sure that my goal is to also put that real into the real. It's not about the fluff. You got people out there that just want to get the tick.
Yeah, to listen to my
The
checks.
goal is for wealth and generational wealth, especially for us. It's like, it's not to jump into something to become poor and you don't regret it, you be stressed about it. It's about how to maneuver the steps that's needed to be able to lead.
Let me ask you another question. I understand what you're saying, but I'm gonna take you to a whole different direction. One of the challenges we have in our community is having this knowledge about how to build real estate and appreciation of home values is one area we can build well. But our young folks don't come up to do what? Yes, but our young folks don't know about that coming up as an option. So their mindset is not in that direction until much later on. Do you speak to mentoring groups? And the reason I'm asking is because I have a boys mentoring group.
Okay.
Ages are like 10 to 18. My wife has a girls mentoring group, and her age is the same, 10 to 18.
Hey, we gotta get you over to our office too for, not this side, but over at this way.
Just off the having a lot of kids out the ball. They'll be talked to in reference to what that work looks like. Especially a lot of the younger generation, especially like my age, saw that crash, right? So this is the issue that they are impacted by. Scared about what that looks like. Am I going to move forward? And I like this, that I want a car instead. You know, they're not thinking about the long-term longevity of it. So it's always having those communications and talking to them and educating them.
That's for those kids at that level.
Yes.
And I'm talking about bringing kids up from here where they can start now to put that in their minds.
They have to, young. I mean,
Right.
from 13, I mean, I have a 16-year-old, a 21, so we are always having these conversations. Got to. Ain't no way around it. You know,
I mean, that-
even
and-
down to the 6-year-old girl, you know, she don't, you know, right, just from dealing with the industry, you know, you have to be able to have conversations with our kids. Otherwise, our world, where we're going is not gonna be where we need to be, right?
And everybody else is having conversation with their kids.
Correct. So, if you're not, it's almost like.
Well, they grow up and they get to the point they don't know which way is up. They don't know how to get there. That's if these other people get in there and they think that those other people got all the answers.
Right. And they don't.
And they don't.
Yeah.
We do. I'm gonna take another call from my wife.
Okay. Take a few of them. And if you know anybody, you know, like you said, that's mentioned that you gave my telephone number, you know anybody that's looking, let me know.
Okay, we'll do.
And then I'll be in contact with you, okay?
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your patience.
Oh, Vivian left, she.
Thank you.
You have my information if you ever have any questions.
I really do. I haven't bought a house or done anything in 14 years.
Does she work here?
And now
She was
I'm
here,
getting
the lady
that
that was sitting right here.
desire to go out
Where
and
did she
look
come
and
from?
see
You?
what's out there.
Vivian, she worked, I
And
work
do it
with her.
again.
Okay.
You have two.
So I
You
work
have
with her,
one in
he
North Carolina,
contacted me.
out of home. Property.
Left me a
And they
voicemail.
all work.
Yep, and then I had
So,
a few
I'm
people
here now.
online on,
Somebody
Zoom.
else want to-
Giant.
No, we're doing a picture.
Okay, so-
All right.
It was.
Yeah, no,
That was good.
This is.
Still recording.
Yeah, sorry. You can turn that off.